We are going to be working with linear functions today. And today is going to be all graphing pretty much. So we are going to work on making a table, and then we're going to graph it. And it's not going to be like super intense today, it's just a lot of graphing. So we're going to write the graph of the function rule y equals negative 2x plus 1. When we talk about a function rule, that just means this equation right here, y equals negative 2x plus 1. So we are going to make a table, and then we are going to graph it. And it's kind of the same process every time. So when we make this table, we're going to pick some x's, we're going to plug those in, and we are going to get a y out of it. And then we're going to graph the x and y. And as we do these, we're going to pick the same x's each time. Same x's each time. And now that we're going, we need headphones out. Greg.
Headphones out, Greg.
Beto, if you got them, since you like to wear those headphones.
Leave
Alright.
it alone.
Headphones out.
Algebra.
Thank you.
Shush.
All you guys need to shush. I didn't.
Okay, I didn't even say anything, Loki.
Watch out. Alright. So when we do our graph and when we make our table, we're going to pick the same x's each time. We're going to pick the x's negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. We could pick any x's we wanted, but I'm picking easy ones for you. You can do like 3, 4, 5 if you want, but you have to have at least one positive, at least one negative, and then I want at least 4 points. These are the 4 easiest. So what we're going to do is we are going to take our x's here, we're going to plug them into our equation, and we're going to solve it for y. So my y is going to equal negative 2, and instead of x now, I'm plugging in negative 1.
Shut the door, shut the door.
Hush, pay attention. I'm going to plug in negative 1, and then I have this plus 1 to it. And I'm just going to solve negative 2 times negative 1 plus 1 to figure out what my y is. So I go negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. Positive 2 plus 1 is 3. After I'm done with my table, I'm going to graph these points. So I'm going to graph negative 1, 3.
I was liking it back here alone.
Alright guys, grab a notes paper and a Chromebook, and then take
Blue one
seats.
stays.
Yes, sir. You guys just get back from your
Yes.
performance?
Yes. We did very good.
Oh yeah, did you?
How good did you
Did you really?
Yeah.
From your Indian stuff.
You never
Do I have them?
charger.
Yeah.
We actually was just
Wow.
Indian, you would do that.
I do not want to see the tip of that thing.
Only the Indian.
You'll watch the lesson tonight if you can.
What the? What is wrong with you?
Alright, so if you just came in, grab your paper and sit. We will, yep, we're on our first slide of notes, so
No, we're
grab your
almost
paper,
done
get
with
logged in.
Oh,
Sorry, Shaboki drums and no balloon zone.
I know balloon zone.
You guys are wasting time.
Maybe like. So I'm
It's pretty much half the class already.
balloon zone.
Yeah, you guys wasted half this class. Don't throw it.
Come on, just
Oh, you're bad.
grab your paper and sit.
Do it, do it.
Come on.
Major.
Alright, so,
Dude, I like
for you guys who just came in, we are working on, hey, quit screwing around.
That wasn't me.
I don't care who it was, I'm telling everybody to stop. And that's strike 1, you guys are being too loud.
What is this?
What the heck? You stole it from me.
Whatever, you tossed it to
Shaboki, is
it.
that if I charge my
You
phone?
tossed it to
You
it.
guys.
Plug it in and leave it.
Yeah.
I'm scared too.
Where's the nearest?
Yeah, I did that.
Hey, can I charge mine? There's like a plug-in right here.
Plug it in and leave it.
Yes, we got that.
Alright, that was strike 1 already.
Oh my!
Yes.
Prove it!
Being loud right after I say you got 1 strike doesn't
Why?
really help.
Just want everybody to know.
Alright, 2 more. You guys don't get music during your homework time.
Oh, I'll still listen.
Pay attention.
Just play.
Take your phone or headphones. Alright, we are graphing y equals negative 2x plus 1. We're going to make a table, and then we're going to graph it once we're done. So when we make our table, we're going to pick x's to plug in. And we're always going to pick the same x's. Negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. Luis, why don't you take your stuff and go move back behind Ashton?
Wow. You let him sit back there with Major?
I'd rather.
Yes!
No, that's true. Not with Major.
Hey, who's
Alright,
there-
hey,
who's
bring
there
your chair and you
back
can go right over here on the corner of my desk.
here?
No.
Me.
Wait,
Alright, so we're plugging in negative 1 for x. We
Whoa.
plugged it in, we got 3. Don't forget to grab a chair. Go over here in the corner of my desk.
What?
I gotta tell you to be quiet again, it's detention.
Yes, I'm
So next one we're gonna plug in is 0. We're gonna plug in 0 for our x. We're gonna solve it.
Whose ice cream is this?
His.
Leave it, man.
Thank you.
So I got y equals. I'm gonna go -2.
Huh?
And I'm going to plug in 0 for my x this time. So I'm going to go -2 times 0, and then plus 1. And I'm just going to solve this -2 times 0 plus 1 to get my y. -2 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. And we're going to keep going. Same thing, but this time I'm going to plug in 1. I'm going to go y equals -2 times 1. I got plus 1 still. I'm going to solve this again. That's strike 2.
What the heck?
So you should probably stop talking, Magi. You're part of this.
Okay, you know where it says x and comma y? Would we put like -1 dash comma?
We could. That brings up a good point. So I forgot to do that. This column, I copied this from the book. It's got x, comma, y labeled. I don't like to do that. I prefer to just have y right there. Just label my y. Then we get our x and our y.
Oh yeah, that's
Thanks for reminding me about that though. So I just like putting y's at this last column. I don't like doing, because we already have x right here. Why should we rewrite it? You just look at it. Alright, so I am on 1 for my x right here. I'm going to go -2 times 1 is -2, plus 1 is -1. Almost done with our table, then we'll graph it. I'm going to plug in 2 for my x this time. So y equals -2 times 2 plus 1. -2 times 2 is -4, plus 1 is -3. I've got my table finished, so now I'm going to graph it. And we are going to graph our x's in our first column here. This middle column was just to help us find our y's in our last column. So I'm going to put in the point -1, 3. Actually, first, before I do that, I should make sure my x's, I'm going from -1 to 2, so I don't need to change those. And I need to double check and make sure my y's are pretty good, that I don't need to go by like 2's or something. But I'm going from 3 to -3, that's not very much, so I'm not going to change it. Just keep in mind, if you get like really big y's, you might have to go by 10's or 5's or something like that. Alright. They're good though, so I'm just going to graph. I'm going to graph -1, 3 for my first point here. I'm going to go over here to -1, up 1, 2, 3. Get my first dot. I have 0, 1 for my second dot. Left and right 0, up 1. I'm going to have 1, -1. The next one. And then for my last one, I got 2, -3. So the right 2, down 1, 2, 3. And we are almost done. My last part is I need to connect my dots and make my line. You can't just keep dots here. We've got to actually have lines. Because we are graphing linear things, linear functions, which are lines, not just dots.
Didn't say hair.
She brought it for you. Yeah, what else would she say?
Alright. This is basically all we're doing. We are just going to practice this a little bit more. We'll do a little bit of practice with decimals because we're going to plug in some fractions and they're kind of annoying.
She brought it for him, that's why she let it take it.
Alright, anybody still working on this one?
Yes.
I believe Jason.
Ashley, help us out, please. Alright. So for our next one, same type of thing, but this time we're going to do y equals 1/2 x minus 1.
Looks pretty hard.
So when we do these, same thing like before, we're going to pick some x's. We're going to plug them into our equation here to find our y.
Sounds sad licorice.
So Mejai, what are my x's going to be? Plug in?
One plug in. 1.
Okay. 2.
-1. 0.
I said those in weird order, but yes, you are correct. So we're going to plug in -1, 0, 1 is 2. Yes, for today, we're always going to do these points. You can do other points, but the bigger numbers you get, the harder it is to graph. So if we pick these small numbers kind of close to 0,
Oh my god.
they're easier. They're a little bit easier. So we're going to use Desmos for this to help us out a little bit. So we're going to plug in to our first part here. We're going to plug in -1 in for x. So we're going to have 1/2. And then when I plug in this -1, I'm going to be timesing -1. And then I have a -1 at the end here. And I'm going to plug that into Desmos, and I'll show you how to do that real quick. So whenever we use Desmos, we want to put our fraction in parentheses. We're going to put our fraction in parentheses. So we're going to do 1/2 times -1 minus 1.
What?
I'll show you. Hang on, let me get this moved over here for Desmos. Come on.
Come on.
There we go. Alright, so we're going to plug in 1/2 times -1 and then -1. So my fraction, I'm going to go parentheses and then 1 divided.
Oh.
So parentheses 1 divided by 2. In parentheses like that. Now let me zoom in a little bit. You have that. Alright. And then from there, I'm going to go times -1. And then I have -1. A lot of 1s in this one. So I plug this in and I get -1.5. So I'm going to go back to my table here. When I plug this in, I get -1.5. Okay? We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going here. This time, though, I'm going to plug in 0. So I'm going to go 1/2 times 0 minus 1. And I'm going to go back to Desmos, but Desmos makes this nice. What's the only difference from when I plug in -1 and when I plug in 0? It's my only difference, Kinsey.
From -1 and when
Yeah.
you plug in 0,
Yeah, what's the only difference between those two things?
it's always going to be 0, right?
Only the 0 and the -1, right?
Yeah.
So when I go back to Desmos here, I'm going to make it easy. And instead of deleting the whole thing, I'm going to delete -1 and just type in 0. Makes it a lot easier. Instead of typing the whole thing in again, just change what you need. So when I plug in 0 this time, I just get -1.
Man, this.
So let me go back to my table here. I got -1 out of it. Next part, I'm going to keep going. This time I'm going to type in +1. 1/2 times 1 minus 1. And we're going to keep going. And I'm going to go back to Desmos. I'm going to change my 0 to +1. And I get -0.5. Go back to my table here. -0.5. And I got one last one. This time I'm plugging in 2. Get rid of this. Type in 2. And I get 0.
No.
Oh, I got to write it down though. I did 1/2 times 2 minus 1. I got 0 out of it. We're done with our table. We're going to graph it now, but let's look at it a little bit. I'm going from -1 to 2 in x's, which is fine. But for my y's, my smallest y is -1.5. My biggest y is 0. Those are pretty close together, right? So let's go by 0.5s this time instead of 1s. Make it a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
So, because I'm only going negative though, I'm just going to go down. I'm not going to worry about going up. So I'm going to have -0.5, -1, -1.5. I probably should have gone by 0.25s, but oh well. And -2. My graph's still going to be pretty small, but it at least won't be as bad as going by 1s. We got our graph, or excuse me, we got our table, we got our axes set up, so we're just going to graph it. I'm graphing -1, -1.5. -1, -1.5. I'm kind of covering up my numbers, but that doesn't matter. Then I have 0, -1. That's about right there. I have 1, -0.5. About right there. Then I got 2, 0, which is right there. There you go. You okay over there, Kinsey? Okay. And I'm almost done. I gotta connect my dots, make my arrows, to make this an actual line, and not just a bunch of dots.
This is kind of confusing, you know?
Not really.
Well, first time I've done it.
Yeah.
Mine was last year.
Yeah, I'm sure you did something similar.
Oh,
All right. So, anybody still working on copying this down? All right, I'll give you time.
I don't even copy it down.
Can I get a drink of water?
You don't get notes. You don't get points.
I didn't know how to do it, dude. Just like,
Then it should be real easy to copy, huh?
Can I get a drink of water? Can I get a drink of water?
No, I don't ever copy.
You've not got a grade one.
Are you filming?
And that would be. I mean, it's easy. You don't need to copy it if you already know how to do it.
They're called notes.
You're calling notes.
Alright, Mr. Gold. No, I'm not.
Not.
Ooh, I think we're actually this game.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody still copying this down?
Hey.
Taking that as a no. All right, we're getting to our first in-class problem. So I want you to make your table on your paper, then graph it, and then you guys are going to help graph it here on the board in a few minutes. So on your own, make your table, then graph it, check with your partner, see if you get the same answer, and go from there.
What if you don't have a partner?
And then I guess you're going to know.
Oh. I'm not gonna work with my partner. You want my partner,
I'd
Louis?
rather stay alone.
You want to work with my partner, Louis? I'm not gonna work with him.
I nominate this Ashley to be my guest.
I'm gonna adopt Jason, Mr. Goldkey.
All right, keep going on your in-class problem.
Alright, so Jason will be adopted. Can I adopt Luis?
Shoot it. Is it in?
No, you missed.
Is it in? Oh my god.
How did you miss that?
Oh, God.
Oh my god, I missed.
See? Two.
You okay there, Ruben?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, that's something.
Let me use this as a water bottle.
Luis, will you help get started? Emma,
I'm
you don't have time to mess around, man. Especially when it's passing for basketball. You help getting started? Okay. What are the four numbers we're going to plug in for our x? What are we using the other ones?
Negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Just 1, 2. Yeah. All right. So let's put those down here so we don't forget them.
Mr. Goldkey. No, I think I did this wrong.
Double check your last two. Did you do that? Put the little negative 1 and 0. And double check the numbers. Look a little off. Okay. Do you know how to plug them into Desmos?
What are you talking about? This is correct.
Oh, I see.
Get your damn fur here, back to your seat.
Okay, what?
Okay. So we're going to plug in -1 for this x right here first.
Fur, hair,
So when we plug this in, grab a pencil here. We got 2, and what's in between the 2 and the x? And we're not writing it down.
A multiplication sign.
So I'm going to go 2 times -1, and then plus 2.
Wait, what?
So, see, this is my equation I'm working on, right?
Yeah.
I plugged in -1 for this x right here. So instead of x,
You just plug every single number out here out to the x, and then you just do the math and
Yeah.
get your answer. Oh, okay. Makes sense.
The second one
I
was
almost got it in my mouth. Not my shit.
Major, shut up. Wait, Mr. Goldkey, are you still YouTubing this?
Yes, the microphone's right there.
Hey, Mr. Goldkey's microphone. This is. Where's his microphone?
On his phone.
It's on his phone.
Oh,
Hey guys, it's
Is his phone.
Louise.
says it, something like that.
Hurry up.
then we're just plugging in Desmos calculator.
Hey guys, it's Luis, and I'm back with another YouTube video. I'm gonna be doing.
In the middle of my video.
Fine, here I'll do the outro, and then you could go in, and then you could put that as your outro. All right, guys. Well, that's the lesson for today, and please like and subscribe. Come back for another video.
Alright, we're getting started here. So we're going -1, 0, 1, 2. You guys are going to help me out. Jace, what do I get when I plug in -1?
You get 2 times -1 plus 2.
Yes, me.
Yes,
I'm sorry, Mr. Gogi.
Moses, make a name of yourself. Like how his first name is Zach. Hey guys, this is the Zach. This is Luis.
Secretly told me that he was gonna say that.
Because I was talking to Kenzie and she's a she, and
I have no idea what's going on.
He called you
Tell
a
me.
she.
Jace called me.
I didn't even notice.
Oh, you did?
No.
I thought I
Nice try, but maybe next time.
Dang
Anyway,
it. Good one, man.
what do you get, Jace? Plug in -1.
Luis, the breathing moment.
oh,
Wish, little buddy.
You get what?
Wish, little buddy.
Yeah.
Make a wish, little buddy.
Is what?
He's on. No one wish for you.
2 times -1 is not -1. What is it, Kinsey?
0.
0. Because, Jace, what's 2 times -1? -2 plus 2.
Zero.
There we go.
Hey guys.
Ruben, what do I get when I plug in 0?
So you see what he did there?
We go 2 times 0 plus 2.
He took
and
the
we get
number
2.
on the side and he plugged it in with the X.
Alizea, what do I get when I
He
plug
did
in
the
1?
math and he got it right. There you
What do I get when I
go.
plug in 1 for my X?
Whoa! The answer is 2. Right?
I don't know.
Alright. We're gonna go 2 times 1 plus 2, right? What's 2 times 1? Plus 2? There you go.
Yeah.
And then, Greg, what do I get when I plug in 2?
3.
You got 6.
You get 6.
Oh wait, hold on.
We go 2 times
What?
2 plus 2. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6. Alright, looks pretty good.
You just did the one that I
And
just.
then let's keep going. Ashlyn,
You just did the one I
should I
just
change
missed.
my...
What type of? Oh.
I haven't even asked you yet. What should I make my Y's go by?
4.
Or do I even need to change it? How about I phrase it that way?
No, you don't, but you should go to 2.
No, we should. I would make it really small. Because I'm going from 0 to 6, I don't need to change my Y's. That's pretty small. Alright, so let's go through. We are going to have,
You're what?
let me think, Magi and Kinsey and Adelia and Moses. I would all come up front and put a dot on the document graph. Alright, take a point, put it on there. Yeah, come on, Magi, let's go. Come on down. Come on down. Yeah,
It's supposed to be right here.
Alright.
That's fine. Okay, I got you. Don't worry, bro.
I don't. What's 40?
Moses, come on. Yeah, you gotta be careful though, because it's not calibrated. Alright, it's not calibrated. You don't write actually where it goes. Look at the mouse. Oh, I forgot about
I
paper.
don't see why he's hiding it. He peed his
A little right, a little right.
Yeah.
You can use it to the right, to the right.
Hey, Jace, where'd you guys go?
Yeah. Then why'd you put it? It should be right here where the thing is. You gotta be careful though. Because look where the thing is.
You guys just.
So fix your dot. You gotta go to the right.
Like Mr. Hill, you know, that's how he sings. He's like,
Alright, Magi, get the last one.
that's.
There, one is off.
That's a billion.
Yep. You got 0.26. Because it's not calibrated.
Mr. Hill.
So you gotta look at where the thing is, not where you're touching the screen. Alright, you got 2-6. That's your point.
Oh, 2-6.
Yeah.
My turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Good job.
You can
Ah, little lower. Little higher. What's the difference? There you go. Alright, and then Magi, finish off this line for us. Make it an actual
Good
line.
job, little buddy.
You better actually like look where the mouse goes. Yeah. There you go. And then don't forget your arrows. Perfect. Nice job. Now you have an arrow signing it. Nice try. Even know what that is.
That's gonna be the video.
All right, nice job. Nice job. So we're gonna skip this next one. I think I changed my lesson around. At one point we did absolute value, but we're gonna skip it for right now. So skip this one, and you're going straight into your exit ticket. Straight into your exit ticket. And then
Guys, listen
one
up.
quick hint. I got it. Thank you, but I got it. One quick hint. When you guys plug in this x plus 4 divided by 2, make sure you put the top part in parentheses when you plug it into Desmos. Otherwise, you're going to get a wrong answer. So make sure it is parentheses, x plus 4 parentheses, and then divide by 2.
Ow.
All right, do your exit ticket. You will answer it in Socrative. The Socrative part is your table. Do it on your paper, type it into Socrative, and then I will put your homework on Google Classroom in just a second.
Oh, will.